Morant with a running start. Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness! Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heat is gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance. Adams going long. Morant! Oh, he hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies might have been absolutely embarrassed on Friday night in one of the worst losses in franchise history, but they bounced back on Saturday to rout the Pacers, and Cedric Coward led the way with a full-fledged rookie breakout. So in today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Miami game. I'm going to talk about the Pacers game, and I'm going to talk about Cedric Coward. Before I do, just a reminder, if you want to support the creation of this show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Thank you to Marshall, who signed up for the Patreon recently. I really appreciate you guys. If you sign up for Patreon, you get access to a bonus episode every month. And there's a listener Slack channel. We talk about basketball. There's a Grizzlies specific channel in there. If you want to talk about the Grizzlies, get some interaction with other fans, interaction with me, all of that, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, to get it out of the way, the Friday game. Wow. The Grizzlies allowed a franchise record number of points to their opponent. They allowed a franchise record for points and a half. The Heat scored 86 points in the first half. The final score was 146-114. The Grizzlies had their biggest halftime deficit in franchise history. Without exaggeration, it was one of the worst games the Grizzlies have ever played. Statistically, I guess. It was a start to finish beatdown. There was no defense whatsoever in the first half. The Heat made three-pointers. The Grizzlies did not make three-pointers. The Grizzlies couldn't take care of the basketball. The Grizzlies could not rebound. At the end of the first quarter, the Heat had the same number of offensive rebounds as the Grizzlies had defensive rebounds. We saw issues like this in the preseason. By the time it was halftime, with it being the first night of a back-to-back, the game was certainly over. They did a good job, I thought, of just getting the guys out of the game. Cedric Coward had some nice stuff to show in the second half, maybe a little foreshadowing as he continues his nice rookie season. Ja Morant and KCP were both questionable going into the Friday night game. Ja was just 4 for 16 from the field. It was just ugly all around. Nothing positive to take away from it. I mean, at one point, the Heat had a 38-9 run that felt to me a lot like the JB Bickerstaff season, where they had a weird collection of players and nothing congealed all season, and they ended up having a ton of horrible blowout losses that year. But the Grizzlies, after coming back against the Pelicans in the opening night, they dropped this grotesque defeat on Friday. But hey, the good thing about the NBA is a lot of times there's a game coming up right after a big loss where you have a chance to bounce back, and the Grizzlies absolutely bounced back. Playing a Pacer squad, which was admittedly shorthanded, the Grizzlies delivered, and it was a complete 180, not just in the result, but the first quarter was a complete 180. Against the Heat at the end of the first quarter, they were down 44-25. At the end of the first quarter against the Pacers, it was 23-21. Like 9 minutes into the game, it was something like 14-12. These are two of the highest pace teams from last year, but the scoring wasn't there. But then in the second quarter, the Grizzlies started to get a little bit of a foothold and eventually ran off this 22-4 run that was powered a lot by the bench. One of the stories of the game, besides Cedric Coward, is just the overall bench play. The Grizzlies got 69 points from their bench. If you're a Pacers fan, you're probably watching this game thinking, man, we're getting destroyed by John Conchar and Javon Small and Cam Spencer and Cedric Coward. And that's true. That's what happened. The Grizzlies used a lot of very small lineups, some slightly different lineups than they tried against the Heat. Specifically, John Conchar was much more involved in the Pacers game. He was barely involved at all against the Heat. Conchar was awesome against the Pacers. Picked up 3 steals, was very, very effective, was always moving, always cutting, finding himself some easy buckets. So the Grizzlies used this big run in the second quarter to build up a nice double-digit lead. They are ahead at halftime, but then the story of the third quarter becomes Cedric Coward. In the third quarter, Cedric explodes for 15 points. The guy can't miss from 3. This guy, who struggled shooting the basketball mightily in the preseason, cannot miss in the NBA regular season. He is now 8 for 11 on threes on the year, 6 for 6 in this game. This is his third career game, finishes with 27 points. So Cedric Coward really helps blow this game open. The Grizzlies have another big third quarter run. This time it's a 21-3 run. They get up by 21 points. Also in this game, you got solid contributions. I mean, John Morant was very effective getting in the paint and scoring. The Grizzlies' paint scoring numbers were very good. Jaren had an okay basketball game, but mainly I think we're watching this being blown away by what the kid, the new guy, is doing. Also, fellow rookie teammate Javon Small had a really good game. 16 points and 6 assists and no turnovers in just the third career game from Javon Small. Also, team-wide, the turnovers were a big story. The Grizzlies finished this game with just 6 turnovers. They had a season-high 31 assists. That is an incredible assist-to-turnover ratio. It's actually the best assist-to-turnover ratio in any game in franchise history where they recorded at least 30 assists. It's the 4th best game for assist-to-turnover ratio regardless of the number of assists. The all-time best assist-to-turnover ratio game, I looked this up, back in 2001 against the Lakers, the Grizzlies had 26 assists and 4 turnovers. But the Grizzlies in this game, in a stark contrast from the first 2 games, they took care of the basketball and they rebounded the basketball. Like Jock Landale, he had his issues in this game. He struggled to finish several times inside the paint, but he still had a positive impact, I felt like, on the glass and by being a big body out there. But the story, Cedric Coward having 27 points, John Morant, a very effective 19 points, the second chance points being high. They had 19 second chance points. That is more than they had in their first 2 games combined. That stat is from Grizzlies PR. So the Grizzlies get an important win, and now, hey, you're 2-1. It doesn't matter how much you lose by. Doesn't matter what happened in the Heat game. The Grizzlies finished this opening 3-game homestand with a 2-1 record, which you'll take. I think that's absolutely a great result for the Grizzlies, what they're going through with all of their injuries. And these injuries have helped open the door for what Cedric Coward is doing. I mean, I think he would have been in the rotation anyways, getting some minutes at the small forward if Zach Edey were healthy, if the rest of the guards were healthy. But it has definitely opened the door for Javon Small, who's been good. It opened the door for Cam Spencer to step in and play well. Cam finished the Pacers game with 8 points, had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. It opens that door for the John Conchar game. Again, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. A huge Conchar game. Also off the bench, Santi Aldama had 9 points and 8 rebounds. As far as the rest of the starters, I can do their stats, I guess. Jaren, 17 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, no blocks. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 10 points, 5 assists. Jalen Wells missed all 7 of his 3-pointers against the Pacers, 5 points, 3 rebounds. Notably, Ja Morant, 9 for 9 from the foul line against the Pacers. That's always great to see. I'm pretty sure Ja always starts or usually starts very hot from the free throw line. That continues again this season. Hopefully he doesn't tail off at all. A few more thoughts on Cedric Coward's game, just describing it more. I think beyond the three-point shooting, which of course is going to cool off, we saw those hustle plays all over the court in the first game against the Pelicans, the steal, the and one through traffic. But we saw him walling up defenders, doing a great job with verticality. That also happened again in this game, where he's using his frame, his wingspan to jump straight up and to deter the offensive players, forcing misses, allowing his teammates to come and get the help side block shot. He's also maybe the best guy on the team at drawing charges. He drew by far, I think he was the only Grizzlies player in the preseason to draw any charges. So he is affecting the game with his body on the defensive end. Also, of course, his activity on the glass has been very, very good. He's also making some of those highlight defensive plays. And then you add to it the three-point shot making, but he's also finishing in the paint. He drove in and hit a floater. He had a wild reverse layup where he was just totally under control. And he's like, I had my defender sealed. The easiest way for me to lay this in is over my head, not looking at the basket. So get excited as you want about Cedric Coward. I cannot imagine a more promising debut for him through the first 3 games. Now, let's take a quick break, and I'll come back and I'll talk about the new player that the Grizzlies have added to their roster, and also go over a couple more stats, and also look at the Tankathon standings. No, not for us, but the watching of the Phoenix Suns pick, and I'll update you on what your rooting interests need to be all season. We'll do that right after this break. All right, just putting a bow on the Heat game, some of the final stats from that one. Jaren Jackson Jr. led the team with 19 points. Cedric had 16 in that game. Did you know, by the way, Cedric Coward right now second on the team in points per game? Averaging more points per game right now, 19, than Jaren Jackson Jr., 18. Pretty wild. KCP had 7 points against the Heat and 6 assists. He's been doing a good job racking up those assists, keeping the ball moving, got 2 steals. Jock Landale, 4 points, 5 boards against the Heat. Jalen Wells, 3 out of 9 from the field, but 3 out of 7 on 3-pointers for 9 points. Ja, again, just 12 points, 6 assists. They pulled him out pretty early. Santi, 13 points and 8 rebounds. The bench guys, I think you highlight, Omax got some run in that one, but most of this was garbage time. I mean, again, the game was over the second half. They knew they were going to have to bounce back for the next night against the Pacers. All right, now that the Grizzlies have played 3 games and they're dealing with these long-term injury concerns with many players on their roster, the Grizzlies were allowed to add a new player. This is the NBA's hardship exception. When you have 4 guys who are out for multiple weeks after you've played 3 games, the NBA allows you to add a guy on a 10-day contract. And the Grizzlies have added Charles Bassey. We talked about him a couple of episodes ago. Actually, was the last episode? But Charles Bassey was one of those guys identified as he is a fringe NBA big, but probably the best big that's out there. Clearly seems like a guy who could be on an NBA roster. If you need help in the front court, that's the guy you would go and get. He's not eligible for a 2-way, which is why he's available. If he were 2-way eligible, someone probably would have given him one already, including the Grizzlies. But now the Grizzlies, because Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., Brandon Clark, and Zach Edey are all projected to miss 2 more weeks at least. Thus, you're allowed to add a guy on a 10-day. So Charles Bassey is added. I don't know if he'll be available tonight in the road game against the Warriors. I also don't know, and I'd be curious to see, does he supplant Jock Landale in the rotation? I mean, I said I thought Jock made a positive impact rebounding against the Pacers, but also he struggled a lot. And I don't know if Bassey will be an upgrade, but at least now the Grizzlies have more front court depth, more front court options. Also for the Grizzlies injury situation, you have those 4 guys, Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., Brandon Clark, and Zach Edey. Vince Williams Jr. might be the 5th. I think Isolo said now there's no timetable for his heel injury. So even if someone comes back weirdly early, the Grizzlies might still, for a while now, be able to continually add guys on 10-day contracts. Now, they can add Bassey to, I think, a total of 2. I could get this wrong here. I didn't look this up. This is off the top of my head, which could be wrong. I think they're only allowed to do 2 10-day contracts. And then if they want to keep Bassey, they'd have to give him a regular contract. To do that, you have to waive somebody. If they're going to waive somebody, which I don't actually think they would, but if you're going to waive somebody, it's probably Vince Williams Jr. Definitely depending on the severity of this heel situation. But like they could do Bassey on 2 10 days. If no one's come back yet, or if no one's on the cusp of returning, then they could add a different player on a 10-day contract. So it just gives the front office some flexibility there. Now, the Grizzlies, hopefully this year, are going to be out of the lottery, right? We want to make the playoffs. We want to get in the play-in. You're 2-1, good. We're now, early in the season, obviously. What are we, 6th in the West? Sounds great. But there is still stuff to watch all season long on what to do with this pick swap that the Grizzlies got for Desmond Bane. And one of the difficult things to comprehend is it's a very convoluted, it's almost a 4-way pick swap. Basically, things we want to happen. Ideally, the Grizzlies would have a better record than the Suns and the Magic. Hey, guess what? So far, so good. Suns and Magic are both 1-2. The Grizzlies are 2-1. We also want the Wizards to have a better record than the Suns. The Wizards are 1-2. That's fine. But right now, a little reminder. If the Wizards are top 8 in the lottery, they are allowed to swap their pick with the Suns. So what we want as a Grizzlies fan, we're fine if they're both in the top 8 because that means we get a top 8 pick. But the ideal scenario is the Wizards are not in the top 8. So we're cheering for the Wizards to win games. At least I am. Cheering for the Suns to lose games. Because if the Wizards are not in the top 8 of the lottery, the Grizzlies get the best 2 picks of their own pick, the Magic pick, and the Suns pick. So right now, like if the season ended today, the Magic and the Suns in the lottery, the Grizzlies would get 2 lottery picks, jumping up with both of those. So again, if you're confused, I'll put the graph up here on YouTube for you to watch. But basically it boils down to, we want the Suns to lose. We want the Magic to lose. Sorry, Desmond Bane. Sorry, Tyus Jones. We're cheering against the Suns, most importantly. We're cheering against the Magic. If the Wizards have a good record, that's honestly good too. That helps us as well. So that'll be a fun, subplot for the entire season for rooting every NBA night. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Still recording in a temporary location. Hopefully have the home office set back up by this week. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. Really appreciate the Patreon supporters at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, you guys have a great Monday. Remember, the Grizzlies play late tonight on the road, a tough game against the Warriors. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.